trust is a powerful thing. There is a power in having the trust of someone, or even many people. It displays an acceptance to let someone in a more capable position or with greater power handle a situation that directly affects you. If a moral person has been given that trust, they will feel a heavy load to see the problem through. But sometimes that trust is betrayed, and whether it's the person's fault or not, there will be terrible repercussions for all involved.
So you gotta take games seriously. Who knows? One day, you might end up in the fun house.
There's no such thing as a fun house. That's just a stupid story.
That's not true. I knew a sprite in the supercomputer whose best friend's cousin got caught in the funhouse and lived to tell about it.
Sure, Bob, I believe you.
Oh, yeah? Well, it's never too late to brush up on the basics.
Speaking of basic, have you seen the user?
What's it doing?
Identity Crisis Part 1 was written by Jono Howard, with story by Gavin Blair, Phil Mitchell, and Ian Pearson. The main cast includes Michael Benier as Bob, Kathleen Barr as Dot, Matthew Sinclair as Enzo, Tony J as Megabyte, Phil Hayes as Hack, Gary Chalk as Slash and Cyrus, and Michael Donovan as Cecil and Fawn. Our story opens with Bob and Enzo in a modern warfare game of some sort. The user is even more dense than usual, and Bob is literally able to sit by the river and fish, using the opportunity to teach Enzo about games. He also mentioned something called the Fun House. Foreshadowing alert, perhaps? A plane then whizzes by, and we get our first introduction to Binky the butler and Sir, a British pilot who is kind of a klutz. He goes to drop a bomb on the tank and ends up blowing up his own plane. Bob gets impatient and destroys the user with a bazooka, mentioning after the game that today is Dot's big day and they shouldn't waste any more time. Switch to Dot.
CCI display check, holoscan beam grid, here. Cecil!
What you are experiencing is a temporary distortion of reality.
What?
Madame, you called?
What the heck? What was that all about? I'm sure we'll find out eventually. Cecil mentions that all the kitchen staff are behind Dot as she proceeds to... Well, we don't know what she's up to just yet. Enzo and Bob come into the diner, and Dot notices that Enzo has dropped his icon. You know, the little button everyone has. Bob finds it and gives it back to him, and Dot scolds Enzo, reminding him that they contain his personal identification number, and if anyone got that, they could control him. Now that's definitely foreshadowing. Bob and Dot decide that it's time, and the two of them head off, leaving Enzo at the diner. Where are they heading? Someplace hidden, clearly.
Okay, Fong, we're in.
Excellent.
Well, looks like your dream has finally come true, Dot.
I can't believe it myself. Thanks for coming, Bob. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. So, you ready?
No. But here we go anyway.
Bob and Dot, decked out like secret agents, emerge from this bunkered hallway into a massive auditorium. Around them on the stage are a few other binomes, and seated in the seats are hundreds of other binomes looking on. The auditorium seems to be fully enclosed and either underground or simply in a big building. Finally, after a speech from Dot and a few exchanges from Bob and Fawn, we finally get an idea of what's happening. This is a sector that Megabyte controls, and these are the non-viral binomes who live there, under Megabyte's oppression. Dot is here to gather the personal ID numbers, or PIDs, of these residents, so the principal office can register them, and they can assumably take control of the sector back. It's not made perfectly clear how all this works. We don't exactly get a Star Wars tick scroll or anything. But suffice to say, these PIDs will make or break the lives of these people. There's a lot of pressure on Dot to get these numbers to Fawn as soon as possible. The binomes are reluctant, as their spokesman, Cyrus, mentions, but eventually they relinquish them, and Dot downloads them to her organizer. 'Organizer'. 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 '
It's gone.
Remember, our whole lives are in here now. Don't let us down.
You have my word. I will guard these with my very life.
Of course you will.
Consider yourselves free!
Do not move! Stay exactly where you are!
The celebratory mood is broken up by the arrival of several armoured carriers, as well as Hack and Slash. The Civi binomes, Shake and Fear, and the viral soldiers of Megabyte start rounding them up. We can see they were taught marksmanship skills by stormtroopers, though, as those that fire onto the stage don't hit Bob and Dot. At all. Nevertheless, with the heat rising, Bob and Dot book it.
We're going underground.
This leads to the utility tunnels. Come on.
Come on!
Wait!
Cyrus leads our two heroes through a tunnel system, all the while being chased by Megabyte's goonies on zip boards. Meanwhile, the rebellious civilians are treated as several imposing vid windows, bearing Megabyte's face. Megabyte addresses them in a calm and commanding way, demanding to know who has disrupted his sector's order and calm. Hack and Slash inform him that the ringleader was Dot.
Status report.
Sir, I have 3 platoons in pursuit as we speak. Channel 7.
How convenient. I suggest we break Miss Matrix's spirit once and for all. I want 1 full legion on this block at once. Seal the sector borders. She must not be allowed to escape.
Meanwhile, Bob, Dot, and Cyrus continue to zip through the sewer tunnels, dodging blaster fire from Megabyte's minions. The thrilling chase scene comes to an end, as Cyrus points to a manhole cover and informs the duo that this will take them to the surface, and decently close to the sector border. As they start ascending, the virals catch up to them, and Cyrus throws himself to them, so Bob and Dot can escape to the surface. The two do so, and Bob finds more carriers patrolling the streets. Somehow, Dot procures a carrier, despite being under Bob when they get to the street access, but whatever, it's cool. The two climb in and are almost immediately pursued by a pair of carriers. Through a daring and action-packed sequence, Dot in the driver's seat and Bob at the gun turret manage to escape. But Megabyte has one more card to play.
Attention, inhabitants of Sector 1000. Your struggle for independence is over. I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank my friend, Dot Matrix, for delivering this sector's PIDs to me with such a cunning and insightful plan. You will be rewarded handsomely for your efforts.
In your dreams, Mega Dump! I think Megabyte's popped a motherboard. What you talking about anyway?
Oh no. Oh no!
What is it? What's wrong? File removed?
Dot instantly falls into despair, realizing that now Megabyte can convert all of them into virals under his complete command. Bob informs Fawn, who says something interesting. Removed? As in not erased? He seems to be implying a hopeful outcome, but Dot is too far gone into defeat, especially since Megabyte's message implies to all that Dot helped him, even though that's not true. But who actually did help him? I'm sure you've already figured it out by now.
Well, my friend, I suppose I should thank you for your kind service. What you did was sneaky, underhanded, and downright distasteful. I loved it.
Thank you, sir. It was an honor to betray my comrades to you. And please, call me Cyrus.
And how do you feel about me calling you Lieutenant Cyrus?
It makes me smile, sir.
So that scene where Cyrus was holding the organizer from earlier, I assume he removed the file then, not to mention his icon was green. A subtle detail perhaps, but the only other green icons we've seen in this series thus far belonged to viral binomes. Anyways, we also learn in this scene with Megabyte that Dot's file is encrypted, and he has his scientist, Herr Doctor, deciphering it. This is the first time he speaks in the show, and yep, he's not only an evil scientist, he's an evil German scientist. Dot either forgets her file is encrypted or doesn't care, because she continues to wallow in self-pity, right up to the point where she is hit by another strange vision, like the one in her diner. What you are experiencing is a temporary distortion in reality, the voice says. All the while Dot sees the area change to a checkpoint as people are brought through what looks like a processing center. Then things return to normal. When it rains, it pours though, and after all that, a GameCube lands on them. Cue an amazing cliffhanger.
I don't like the look of this. The Funhouse!
How will they escape this? I guess we shall find out in part 2. They did everything right in this episode. The characters by now are well established. The scenario was set up, something awful happens, and now we are gripped and willing to see where all of this will go. I have a few minor criticisms. How come nobody noticed Cyrus was a viral? Where did Dot manage to find an unoccupied carrier? Why does Bob never wear those cool shades again? Okay, that last one was a joke, and you can tell I'm nitpicking. Let's talk about the things that make this one stand out to me, and there's 3 things in particular. First, we learn more lore about Mainframe, and the way things work in terms of the icons. Now we know they have a function and purpose besides being the thing people press to reboot. And it will continue to play a part in future episodes as well. That's important too. No lore gets thrown away. Second, the reality distortion Dot experiences. They're creepy and unexplained. Why are they happening? We will know, but not yet. And it sets a different tone than we've really seen before. And that brings me to my third point. This is the first moment of the series really growing up. The first story that takes a more mature theme, and I can start to feel the overall tone of the show begin to shift. This is a great thing, and one of the prime reasons this show is so astounding. It's a perfect 3 from me.